E-telligence. Energizing your email marketing with Kate Barrett.
Hi, and welcome to the E-telligence Creative Review, where every month we will be looking at an email that's popped into our inbox and telling you what we like and what could be tested to maximize engagement. So I'm your host, I'm Kate Barrett, the founder of eFocus Marketing, specialist email marketing agency, helping businesses to use email more intelligently.
And I'm Elliot Ross. I'm the CEO of Taxi for Email, which is a product that helps email marketing teams make better email.
So let's jump into this week's review. The creative we're reviewing today is from American Express. So this is an email that one of our team members has received, and it's advertising the different offers that you can take advantage of when you use the card. So I think they've got some fantastic elements in here. The first thing that really stands out for me is right at the top of the email, you've got some great personalization. So you've got your end of your account number, you've got how long you've been a member since, which I really love because I think it really kind of makes you go, oh yeah, you know, I've been with them for a while, I trust them. You know, personalization is all about getting trust in, but also bringing it into your subscribers' world. And I think this does it absolutely perfectly. And obviously in the headline as well, we've got the person's name who received it. So for me, that's definitely a plus right there at the top of the email.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. You know, that kind of authenticity, especially for sort of financial services type email, very important to make sure, you know, here's a little bit of information we know about you, not all of it that's kind of useful for someone else. So it's only part of your account number, but still a bit you'd recognize, so that's fine, but not enough for someone to do anything dodgy with if it falls into the wrong hands. And yeah, member since a date is really interesting. Like, I think it's something that just helps people, just remind them that they're getting good value and that they've got a decent kind of relationship.
Yeah, and then going into that offers for you. So we've got that in the first headline and then in the subheading as well. And we've got those 4 offers in this case that are giving that person more back. So they're not just spending the money with American Express, they're then saying, hey, you know, you're going to get £45 back when you spend £150 or more at Gaucho, and allowing you to save that to the card. So again, you know, we've talked about this before. It's about linking together how people use your brand and using email as a vehicle for that. So here you're saving it to your card. So it's linking it in with that real life bit of plastic that you've got in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And actually bringing it into your world, which I absolutely love. Yeah,
and I think the sort of social proof there as well, you know, 24,000 other people have saved it to their card. That's really interesting. That's a great little bit of data that they've got, but also bringing that into the email, you know, it might be a bit of work to get that number from the kind of production standpoint, but it really adds a lot of value. Like, a bunch of other people have done this and it's been really useful for them, so why don't you do it? Like, that's a great proposition. Starts to kind of bring in that kind of social proof idea.
Excellent, which is obviously one of the key psychological elements in terms of marketing content to bring in social proof. So that's excellent. The one thing we don't know, obviously, just looking at this email flatly on a presentation screen, is we don't know whether or not these deals have been picked for that individual person. So have they been served up based on, you know, what they've done previously, what they've spent money on in the card? Because obviously American Express have got all of that.
Yeah, that's true. They'll have a lot of that kind of background data, right? I mean, you know, from my kind of experience with these kind of things, like, they tend to be somewhere in the middle, right? Some of it's driven by user behavior, some of it's also driven by what they want to push and what the priorities are from a business perspective. So I imagine it's somewhere in the middle. But nevertheless, I think it's presented well, and I think there's a decent mix of different, like, there's a disparate type of offer in there. So it's not just all restaurants. There's sort of Heels is a sort of department store.
You've got jewellery in there, I think.
Exactly. So even though it could be driven by previous behaviour, it could also just be an aggregate of previous behaviour, you know, not based on someone specific, you know, just a general trend on sort of types of people.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. So there's 2 things. In terms of personalization, obviously we want to bring it into the person's world. We want to base it on what they've done previously, what they've told us they're interested in. You know, bringing all of that data in and that information is really important. But, you know, I've said this before, that we can't underestimate the the need for people to be inspired and have offers served to them that they didn't even know that they were interested in, that they didn't even know that they needed. We've also got to have that outside of the data of you may also be interested in. I think that that's really important, and you know, hopefully, you know, that's a little bit of what AMEX are doing here as well in terms of why they're serving the content.
I think sort of visually it's quite nice. There's a lot of white space and that kind of stuff going on. Like it is fairly long email, but it's fairly straightforward to kind of scan through and to get the message of what's going on. You know, they've had to cross a few sort of challenges here and there. So, you know, they've got some kind of terms and conditions stuff that they've had to add in, and that can always be a bit of a pain. But they've solved that problem pretty easily with just a few lines of copy that are fairly low priority. So that's done well. Also, tempting to add a load of stuff right at the top of this email, but they've done really well to say, here's your offers, and a couple of lines about, you know, sort of save this offer to your Amex card, and you'll get the credits when you use them. You know, that's sort of 2 lines of copy. So I think straight in with the offers, here's some real nice value. Even the specific offers are just a logo, 4 or 5 words, and a big call to action, which is really useful.
Yeah, excellent. I totally agree with all of that. They've got that classic S-shaped design, which we know it just helps lead people from one offer to the next. So I absolutely love that. I love that they're not putting the offer into the images. You know, so even with images disabled, if you are on, you know, the train with a slow internet connection on your mobile, you don't have to wait for those to download to really understand what it is you're being offered. You've got the brand name there, what the offer is, and you've got the call to action. So I think that's perfect. But what the images do is back up the text perfectly. So if you're not sure who Gaucho are, I mean, you can pretty clearly see from that image,
big
right?
old picture of a steak.
Yeah. You know, the last one is about jewelry. The second to last one is clothing. You can really get a sense of what the offer is without using loads of words in there. So you keep it really short, really succinct. And I also like how they've used that classic inverted V in terms of each of the sections. So you've got the logo there, you've got what the offer is, the social proof, and your call to action. You are getting to the point, you're leading people down through your content to the call to action, S-shaped design to the next offer that you've got in there, and then repeating that flow.
Yeah, and also from a kind of production and sort of segmentation and personalization standpoint as well, the design would hold up for 4 different other brands really easily. So, you know, you do get a lot of variation when you're bringing in lots of different logos and lots of different imagery, and especially doing that at scale, you don't necessarily have the design time to be able to sort of tweak a design based on that kind of content. So it would be very easy with this kind of layout to switch in a bunch of different logos and a different set of imagery without it really needing you to change any of the design.
Yeah, it is kind of that. It looks like, I mean, you know, we don't know, but it looks like that modular template that
exactly,
you guys at Taxi help to build all the time, so that you can speed up that production process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what I also love is that if the offers in the email haven't caught your eye, you've also got that main call to action at the bottom to discover more offers. So if you've got to the bottom, you haven't clicked through on any of them, you can go and look at what else is there. You know, the email then is acting as a informational that there are things available, come and explore more.
Yeah, and I think also just from the design perspective, like I think this would work really well on mobile. It's fairly obvious to see what would happen, you know, sort of perhaps your image would stack under or over. You can see this level of content would resize down into one column pretty easily. That mop-up call to action at the bottom is really great, just helps push you out in case, you know, these 4 or 5 offers aren't valuable to you, then there's somewhere else for you to go. Very easy to click on the right thing as well without, you know, risking a click on the wrong thing. This would also work well on a tablet as well as on a mobile, which may be, you know, a significant part of the audience.
And I love that footer menu as well. So obviously, you know, we have to put the unsubscribe in there, and you've got the, you know, update email preferences, the privacy policy, the contact us. But you've also got that download the Amex app. So particularly if you're on mobile, you're linking together how they're utilizing your your brand, how they're using their card. So I really like that. So I think we've got quite a lot of really great positives there. So let's think about what could we test going forward. What could they do slightly differently, or give it a go to see if it increases the click-through rate as well. So I think the first thing for me would be around the call to actions. So there's a couple of things here. There would be the wording on the call to actions. So at the moment you've got saved card on each one, which actually I think is pretty good and does tell you exactly what's going to happen next. But maybe they could test saying save Gaucho to your card, or save Heels to your card, or bring in the brand name perhaps. I also think maybe you could test the call to action button color. So a lot of the time for me, what I find is that when you've got that same color running through, which is perfectly branded, completely uniform and looks fantastic, sometimes you can almost become blind to it because it is there and it's bringing it all together. So you've got kind of pros and cons of doing that. Perhaps there could be a different color within that brand palette that would make them pop a little bit more.
Yeah, that's true. I think also that call to action button, I mean, the imagery that we've got here is quite subdued, and that's great, but potentially that might be trying to stand out against a fairly bright image, depending on what imagery gets pulled in. So making sure that call to action button is sort of really obvious and doing a lot of heavy lifting is key. So yes, perhaps a colour change there might be useful.
It's something to test, right?
Yeah.
All of these things are things to look at, things to consider and see how your audience reacts to them. There is no right or wrong answer when it comes to these things. It really is test it for different segments, test it for different regions, and see what happens. But I think that's definitely our kind of first point in terms of a testing option. The other one is looking at how many offers that they're bringing in. So we've got 4 here at the moment, and then, like you said, that mop-up call to action at the bottom. Would 3 work better? Is 4 too many? Is 4 too few? Would 5 work better? Where's that kind of sweet spot in terms of the number of offers?
Yeah, and also perhaps thinking about the hierarchy, maybe you lead with 1 or 2 big offers and then have some other ones that are kind of secondary. The flip side of that is often when you're working on a partner email, you have to balance the relationship with a bunch of different people and a lot of different partners, and if you seem to prioritize one over the other, if there isn't justification for that, you might have a challenge. So from a user experience perspective, it might be worthwhile saying, hey, here's 3 that we really think are good for you, and here's 5 smaller ones that we think might be useful for you, but from a kind of production and sort of business side of things, that may be a challenge.
Yeah, I love that idea though. Maybe having 3 primaries, and then so you kind of laid out in this S-shaped design, and then maybe having like a 3 or a 4 column that gives you a couple of kind of secondary offers that you can go through to. I love that idea. The other thing that I do actually like in this email is on the last offer, you've got the see participating locations. It's kind of a secondary call to action underneath the button. They could have done that for Gaucho as well. I mean, the other 2 look like they're probably online retailers and perhaps don't have physical stores, but obviously Gaucho do. So maybe a link there to find your nearest Gaucho would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be useful. Also, see participating locations is a good way to avoid having to have a list of participating locations crammed into that terms and conditions. So being able to just link out to somewhere else is really useful. Keeps the email kind of light and easy to read.
Yeah, excellent. And we've got the footer menu, but there's no nav menu in this. So again, it might be worth testing having a nav menu if they haven't seen any offers in there that they like, letting them go and log into their account. Maybe you've kind of reminded them that they do need to go and log into their AMEX account, in which case make it as easy as possible for them to take that action. So maybe thinking about what those key areas of the website are that in this context could be really helpful, and putting those into the nav menu, because I think a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking that the nav menu has to be static, whereas actually it should relate to your email content and what helps them take the next action. Yeah,
so there could be more even if you don't go for a kind of traditional nav at the top, maybe digging into that, see more, save more on your purchases, perhaps there's some categories that you could link to there, that kind of stuff.
Excellent. So yeah, I think they've done a really good job overall in this email. I think there's a lot that we can learn about keeping it simple, making it easy for people to read and actually take up on those offers, and then giving them that mop-up offer at the end. So any kind of last thoughts, Elliot?
No, not really. I think this is, like you said, a really good example of getting quite a lot of content across from quite a lot of different partners in a way that looks really good and is also easy to navigate.
So that was this month's review. Hopefully you found it helpful and got lots of tips on how you can improve your email marketing. If you loved it, please do press the button and subscribe to our channel to get lots more email marketing tips. And you can connect with us on all the socials. You'll find the links in the notes below.